Good to have you back with us on our episode today of the Healthcare Leadership Excellence Podcast. We have a long-time colleague, magnificent coach in person, Shandy Welch, with us today. Shandy keeps writing these great things on her weekly wisdom blog that she sends out. I hate blog because blog just seems so old-fashioned. It is just state-of-the-art writing on very important stuff. And so, Shandy, great to have you back with us today.
Thank you. We're doing this so often. It's like the Karl and Shandy show here.
we should rebrand.
Right.
That would send our numbers through the roof.
Right. Or collapse them altogether. One or the other. Could go either way, Karl.
Andy, I'm usually the more downbeat one, and I didn't expect that little cloud of from you. But I'm reading this the other day. You sent it over. How many people do you send this out to?
It goes out to about 200, just over 200 in the weekly wisdom.
So we have a lot of people reading or listening to this podcast, and in the show notes, you will be able to find how to subscribe to Weekly Wisdom. It is well connected. It has links to everything under the sun, and every single thing Shandy mentions is connected and referenced. So it's never, did she just make this up or is this really accurate? It's right there. So those of you who are data wonks, rest assured that this lady knows what she talks about. But you started out, Shandy, with the shedding, SHEDDING, isn't optional for growth. It's essential for survival. Next line, to grow, we must let go. As soon as I read that, I thought, okay, we've got to be talking about this.
Yeah.
Because it's been my experience as I go to seminar after seminar of high leaders, they're always adding on.
Yes.
It's you're doing X, and I had one CEO that was so excited about his annual meeting, he had me look over his presentation. Shandy, he had 30 new initiatives.
Yeah, 30 priorities, right?
Yes. And seriously, this guy was a CFO that had just been was in his first CEO slot. Brilliant, excited. And he was just a little crestfallen when I said, call him John. John, you got too many here. But Karl, they're all important. At no time did it occur to him or his staff to say, what are we letting go of? So dig in for us here.
Yeah. It's a really, really important thing. And if we're not intentional and really thinking about it, exactly what you just said happens is we just keep adding, and not to create overwhelm, but there's a lot of good stuff, right? There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's good initiatives. There's exciting things to do, although that is the very thing that will paralyze your organization and your people. And I think there's two things that are really important to talk about. One is the shedding personally, and I'd like to get into that. And then there's shedding organizationally.
Okay.
Now, conceptually, same idea, but I would challenge the people that are listening to look at those separately.
Oh, yeah. And I just reached over and got one of my new favorite books, written by 4 senior partners at McKinsey. It came out in late 23, and it's called The Journey of Leadership. No, it's actually 24, just last year. The Journey of Leadership, How CEOs Learn to Lead from the Inside Out. So you're not going to be shedding organizationally if you're not doing it individually. So dig in. And remember, our listeners are driving to work right now or on the exercise bike before they start their day. Great, Shandy. I'm just trying to survive. And you're telling me that I need to, as in your writing, outgrow ideas, identities, and ways of thinking. Just on those 3 things, we only have 30 minutes on this call today. So that may be just the last question. For me as an individual, how do I know what ideas, identities, and ways of thinking I've outgrown?
Yeah. I would venture to guess we know. We just don't stop to think.
Oh, dig in on that one.
A lot. I'm gonna read one. So this writing starts out with the analogy of a snake, that they multiple times throughout their lives, snakes will shed their skin, right? That's just normal. That's what they do. If they do not do that, all sorts of medical things are potentially going to happen to them all the way up to death. It is essential for survival that they shed. So taking that same idea, as we're talking about, have this need, or we hold on to things and we give them almost more value than they deserve. They become part of who we think we are, as opposed to accelerating who we might be. So in this writing, I'll just read this. I said, we may not shed our skin, but we do outgrow ideas, identities, and ways of thinking. Imagine if we gave ourselves permission to reinvent, to examine thoughts, biases, and assumptions without judgment. Let go of what no longer serves us. What if we release the weight of outdated beliefs? How much lighter, freer, and more expansive would life feel? We hold on to a lot. And I think it's, again, I'm going to go back to, because we are not really being conscious that we do that. My ask of everybody is that you are conscious. So it brings up a lot of fear in people, I think. I'll give an example. After 25 years, released myself of my nurse practitioner license this last year.
Whoa, that is huge.
It was huge, and it took me, it was a really interesting process to go through. I spent an enormous amount of time studying for that. I spent an enormous amount of time practicing. It became part of who I was. Every time people would ask, what do you do? I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a nurse practitioner. I am. It is me, which is probably not the right way to say that anyway, but I was proud of it. I loved it. It brought me so much joy, so much connection. It filled me up in every way that I wanted. It was the greatest career ever. And I am who I am today because of that. And I think that's the point. I can let go of that license, and I still am who I am today. And it is because of those 25 years that I can let it go and allow myself to become something more because of those experiences. And that letting that go does not let go of something of who I am, but it allows me to become more of who I want to be.
Okay, let me jump in here. That's knowing you and knowing your stellar career in that area. I just got to ask, describe the thought, because I know there are people that are resonating with this right now of, wow, that's big. What was your thought process? What initiated I could let go of this? And another part of the Shandy brain saying, whoa, who came up with that dumb idea?
Totally.
Back a quarter century
Yeah.
of this is who I am. Tell us the path of how you finally said, no, and you said it so well. I still am that person.
Yeah.
So
It
tell
was
us.
really hard. It's funny. I feel like emotional now thinking about it. I was personalizing too much the license, I think. Carl, you know me. I do a lot of thinking about myself. I mean, I'm like my own therapist 24/7. It's exhausting. Um, but I sat with this and I thought about this. This was not an overnight thing. Just don't get me wrong. I was not able to flip the switch. This is something that was very difficult. I thought with my husband a lot about it. I just ran it in my mind. I sort of tried it on, like a new jacket. Like, what would that feel like? What does it mean? What am I holding on to? What is my fear? Is it fear that people won't respect me as much? Is it fear that in my coaching career, I won't be as credible? I don't know. I mean, you could go on and on. And then I thought, but here's the thing. I have moved into a part of my life in my career that I am absolutely where I am best, where I want to be, and what brings me so much joy, which is leadership coaching. I love it. And I am good at what I do because of my 25 years as a nurse practitioner and leading teams and all of that. And I want to honor that by not holding on to it, because I'm not seeing patients right now. And for me to stay up on my license, every 2 years I recredential. It is a huge deal. I have to spend a lot of time taking classes, going to, all sorts of stuff. I want to spend my time, which is limited, right? I only have X amount of hours a day. I want to spend that time learning and supporting the craft of what I'm doing now. And if I'm learning about something I'm not even practicing, well, then I'm taking away from the people I most want to serve today. And I am not willing to sacrifice that for them.
So, what questions did you have to ask yourself? And again, moving to your comment a couple of minutes ago of my ask is that people be conscious.
Yeah.
What questions did you find helpful for you to become aware? Because I love the levels of awareness, aware of what was getting in your way, and then to make that decision to pull the trigger on that.
Um, how I became aware, I sometimes I talk to people. I just challenged my thoughts. Every time I felt, you feel it in your body, like, "Ah," and then I thought, okay, just sit with this for a minute. Nothing's happening. And like, no one's going to take your license. So just think about it. What is your fear right now? And then I thought, is that real? Will people think less of me because I no longer hold a nurse practitioner license?
Mhm.
And I thought, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll go ask people. Just take these assumptions. This kills us. And I was just talking to a client about this. Assumptions will take you down and you will stay in a place of stagnancy. So recognize it's an assumption. Is this true? And if you say, I don't know if it's true, then find out if it's true.
And
So
how do you find out?
I go ask people. I go, I might talk to you and say, hey, I'm thinking of getting rid of my license. Do you think that will impact my coaching career?
Mhm.
I don't know. We didn't have that conversation. But I talked to people that had let their license go. I also thought was challenging myself of, well, if you're not working in the medical facility, you're not in the hospital seeing patients, then why are you spending your time doing this? Right. And, I kept thinking, okay, well, I want to go overseas with my husband. We want to do mission work. We want to do all that. Well, then I don't have my license and I can't do it. And then I thought, oh my God, so go back and get some license if you want to when that day comes. Like, there's always more possibilities. And I am limiting myself and holding myself hostage to something that is not true and not helping me move forward to what I know in my heart is where I want to be. If I was gambling, I'd gamble on where I want to be now versus what possibly could potentially happen later. So
So
I
I
can't be worried about what other people think. I just can't.
okay, I know you can't, but 99% of the world's population revolves their lives around that very point. And how many times on our coaching do we find that with clients?
Yeah.
Highly educated people that are terrified of what people might think.
Yeah.
And so I think this may segue, but a little farther down in the writing, because I'm just thinking, wow, she let go of her license. And then I'm looking at this 5 seconds of bravery.
Yeah.
I think it segues.
Yes.
Go into that.
Um, so it was the 5 seconds of Barry, and that is linked to a previous weekly wisdom. And I will say the weekly wisdom that's going out tomorrow is about self-regard versus selfishness.
Oh,
So I would urge people to sign up because that is so important that you no longer hold yourself hostage by the rules of other people. And I know a lot of people do that. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. It is hard. You have to prioritize yourself and decide it is hard and it is worth it. And to do that, you have to be brave. That's where the 5 seconds of bravery, that all came from a real thing. I say this to my girls. My youngest daughter was quite young. She was driving this little tractor on our farm and she was learning to drive it. And she was going around a corner that went down a hill. And she stopped before and she was like terrified. I was walking beside her. It was like a little mower thing. And she looks at me. She's probably 7. I don't know. And she said, Mom, I can't do it. And because it was, I mean, it was very little hill and it was a very, whatever. And there was field all around. And I said, babe, you can do it. I would not put you in this position if I did not think you would be successful. You can. I know you can. And it will take 5 seconds of bravery to decide you are worth it. Do it.
I love that.
I also knew if all hell broke loose, she would go into the field if she went straight. So she's not going to die. She's going to be fine. Right? Just like me. If I let go of my license and 6 months later, I decide, like, oh God, every client just aborted mission here, well, then I could get it back. It would be hard and I'd have to, go through the whole thing, but I could get it back. Absolutely. I can get it back now. I mean, I have to go through a lot of training, but it's not impossible. So as I said to her, like, I've thought about worst case scenario. I am not going to stay in worst case scenario thinking. I'm going to be aware of it. I'm going to make sure I have a plan for it. The plan is not that there's a grove of trees right in front of her or a highway. That probably wouldn't be ideal. There was a field. Nothing was going to happen. So I said, do it. And you may fail. You may go into the field. That's okay too. Maybe we start mowing the field while you're there.
So what was, and I just got to get the rest of the story. What was the look on her sweet little face when she nailed those 5 seconds of bravery?
Oh my God, Karl. She got down. I was, of course, like running after her, and she was elated. She was like, Mom, I did it. It was great. And I said, of course you did. It was great.
So I want you to translate that emotion to some of the people listening today. It doesn't matter if you're 7 or 37 or
No,
57. That same elation can be yours. How do you, because at age 7, you have that marvelous mom running by you that helps that bravery to occur. And knowing the type of parent you are, I just can, I've seen your daughters, I've seen the young ladies that they are. How does someone who might think, yeah, that was a mower, that was a field, but this is my life. I've got a mortgage, I've got so much. I don't know if I can do this. But that story is just too good. And I think it plays in adulthood as it does in childhood. Help us out here.
you know, I think you have to decide what you want your life to be. I mean, are you just getting through it? Is that the goal? And maybe it is, and that's okay. I think this conversation is for people to say, I don't want to just get through it. I want to push it. I want to see what I'm made of. I want to experience things. I want to really make mistakes, own them from them, grow, keep, I want to be the top percent. And that's not better than top percent. It's saying, I want to do something that only 10% do. I think it's those people that listen to this podcast. It's those people that keep searching out more. We're talking to you. To do that requires bravery. If it didn't, it wouldn't be the 10%. It would be the 90%. Is it scary? Yes. Did my daughter, was she terrified? Yes. Was I terrified when I when I left my license? Yes. And yet, here I am. It's okay. Nothing happened the next day. Right? And I mean, I was sort of bummed out that after 25 years of serving our community, I didn't get some thank you note from someone. I did not. That was discouraging and I went by it. I am doing it for me. I want to focus my limited energy and time on how I can serve people better. It sometimes was by medically taking care of them. Currently, it's by helping, coaching, and partnering with them. Same thing, it's just a different venue. So, I mean, what are you willing to risk?
And so that segues to my next question. That's based on something you wrote. What can you release gracefully, knowing it got you here, but can't take you further?
Yeah.
And then the next little phrase, this is powerful. This is, again, to our listeners here, this is one that you're not going to be able to capture driving, riding, or walking. This is sit down.
Pull over.
We've been at this about 25 minutes. So if you re-listen to this, just go to marker 25 on the podcast and listen to this, quoting Shandy. And let's be clear, reinvention is not failure. You are just so direct sometimes, Shandy. The word failure is just a smokescreen. It's an easy excuse to play small. It's judgment, shame, and fear all wrapped up in a tidy package. But reinvention, that's courage. It's the willingness to believe in more. Go for it.
Yes. We put judgment on ourselves. We are our worst enemies. Here's the thing. Nobody cares. Not one person has made any comment, positive or negative, that I have let go of my license. Nobody cares. We get caught up in our own world of thinking that it's that whole spotlight effect, that I don't know, it's just like, get out of our own way. We put judgments on ourselves. That is what's slowing you down. You are slowing yourself down. If you want something different, you need to do something different. That is, I always say that. So I urge you not to put the word failure, which is a very judgmental word, on change. You have shifted. May it be a mistake? Possibly. Could you then learn from that? Absolutely. So then it's not a failure. As I tell my girls, the only failure is when you do it over twice. The first time is just a learning experience. That's it. Why do we choose to say it's failure or it's success? It just is. You shifted. That's great.
So now we've talked about the personal, and we could stop right here, but those who have listened to Shandy and I know that we never stop. We just keep right on talking. So
Driving, go around the block.
exactly. So now I want you to help our listeners take what we've just talked about on the internal, help Karl change, leave behind, shed, readdress the perception of failure. And I want to take it onto the nursing floor, to the C-suite. Take it now, what you've just taught us on the individual, help us apply it there as we walk through the doors this morning at work.
Well, you started this conversation talking about your client who had, what was it, 30? 30 priorities, 50, something like that. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's just crazy. Even the optics of that, if I'm sitting and talking to him and he said, okay, here's our top 30, I am completely overwhelmed and defeated. And we've not even talked about what number one is yet.
As was his C-suite, might I add.
Of course, like predictable, right? We can't get around it because it's too much.
But why? This guy is a multi-million budget. His organization has more than $1 billion budget. He's not a slow individual. He's one of the fastest thinkers I've ever worked with. So what in society has taught him that this is okay? I mean, the board, wow, he's cutting edge. He has all these new initiatives versus John. What is it? If you have more than three priorities, you have none. And they didn't say 30, they said 3.
Right. Well, I think that's where the bravery comes in another way. It takes bravery to raise your hand and say, we can't do 30. We will not be successful. Now, let me also say, I think sometimes is in the strategy. Okay. What I mean by that is if I'm leading a team and I am thinking I have 30, I may not share the 30 with you. What I may say is I need to understand people well enough. And this is all over the research. This is not my idea, but it is, I agree with it. If we can say, okay, one, we're going to make slow incremental change. If you are really committed to successful, sustainable outcomes, you cannot put 30 things on the table and say, okay, go. It just won't happen. Because I guarantee you, if this guy come back in a year and not all 30 of those will be done, and maybe he'll get 20% of some done and 60% of others. But I think, what is your goal? Is it 100%? If I really want to do it, I need to be committed to slowing down, identifying the priority of the three things or whatever, and saying, okay, we're going to take the next 60 days and we're going to work on this one thing. Because not only will I have a better chance of success for that one thing, but I also will start building momentum. I will start building trust. I will start building connection that when I add the next thing on, people be ready to do it. That's just like human nature 101, right? You hand me 30 things and I become paralyzed. I
Mhm.
can't do anything. You hand me one and I'm like, oh, I can do that. And all of a sudden I start getting excited. Then we start adding on some more. Then we start readjusting. We also have to let go of what no longer serves us. And that may be a process, it may be a person, it may be a communication pathway, it may be a lot, but let something go.
Okay, so let me dig in there with you because I just need to give you an example. Working with an incredible surgeon up in the Northwest, north of us here in Seattle. And this guy is just, he redefines cutting edge. And he'd been asked about 5 years ago to develop a protocol and a process for X, which he did. Brilliantly done and administratively well implemented by the person he handed it off to. And again, the saying goes, he can't make this stuff up. So 5 years later, he comes up against this process and protocol that he had written that no longer works because new data has come out saying that this process and protocol is no longer best practice. But Shandy, he can't get it changed because the administrator keeps coming back and saying, that's our protocol. And he says, but I wrote it. And and it's, and we had to shake our heads of, and at first because he has a killer sense of humor, I said, Doctor, are you serious? He said, Karl, I don't joke about things that drive me nuts. And finally, he, I guess, had to drown her in data of, we've got to change this.
Yeah.
But it had become institutionalized. So you worked with an organization, I've consulted with many, that literally it is now carved in stone.
Yeah.
And so this thing, what can you release gracefully? And I'm thinking graceful and jackhammer don't go in the same, but sometimes as you lead, and putting this back on you, as you talk to our listeners today and they're up against this arm folded, legs crossed, nonverbal no, when it has to be a yes. How do you get institutions and the higher up the chain to say, that's no longer working?
I think our instinctive reaction is to push harder, right? Okay. And I get that. I'm definitely there with you. I think if you really want success though, you got to put yourself aside and get strategic. And strategy in that sense is understanding that the no is really saying, I don't know how to do it. That's what they're saying. Because, of course, they want best case protocols, right? Yes, we all want the same thing. So if you can get more curious of like, I know we can agree on we want best practice at this hospital. And what I'm telling you, because I'm the expert, let's say, that this is not best practice. I know you would ultimately want to support whatever would be best practice, but I'm getting a no. So get curious as to like, instead of pushing, ask another question like, okay, my guess is you will find that that person is thinking, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how we can undo it. It's going to be too hard. There's all these assumptions again. It's a lot easier just to say no.
So, hypothetical scenario that you have lived and I have seen. Um, I'm the new assistant nurse manager on the surgical services unit. And my director of nursing is nice. She likes me, or she wouldn't have promoted me. However, she does realize that I am the A&M and she has 20 years more of experience. And Shandy, for me to get airtime with this woman is like getting appointment at the Vatican.
Yeah.
Now, if she wants to ream me out, I seem to have availability time in her schedule. But
An appointment just opened up.
yes, exactly. But for me to go in and say, I'm curious, I'm, I have children I'd like to go home to tonight and not in a coffin. So I understand your point of just ask another question because I don't see a shred of I don't know in this woman.
Yeah.
Think I've never seen her indecisive, and me with 20 years less, how am I going to get this need to shed across to this lady who's, yeah. So help me out here.
So it's interesting to be able to, okay, assuming you got to get in front of her, right? So it's a whole other conversation, but get strategic, figure out how to do that, or you talk to someone else first. Here's the thing. We want answers. It seems very obvious to us. So we just want to go A plus B equals C. Let's just move on with it. Right? That's in our head. I don't want to have all these conversations. I don't want to ask and be curious. This blah, blah, blah. I understand that, although that is the game you have to play. That is the only way you're going to be able to do it.
Say that again, because that's gold.
It's can feel exhausting, but you have to shift it in your mind, and it's an interesting game you get to play.
And go into a little bit more this game. I just want to take a quick tangent. Um, because to me, Navy SEALs training and Marine boot camp are the ultimate example of the mental game. And
Yeah.
I asked one person who was a Marine how he'd survive those 84 days from hell. I mean, that are brutal, but there is a reason the Marines are the elite force. And I think it starts with that. And I said,
Yeah.
Jorge, how did you make it through? And he said, and it sounds so trite, but it's absolutely accurate. He said, I just survived 84 days in a row. 84 days, one at a time.
Yeah.
And I said, it sounds like you almost made it a game. He said, oh, no, it's not almost. It was a game. How do I survive today
Yeah.
and make it till tomorrow?
Yeah.
And he got award after award. He just nailed training. And this is a guy you would not have expected to win anything at boot camp in Southern California. So go a little bit more into this mind game of strategy, like Jorge at boot camp. He outsmarted his drill instructor.
Yeah.
He outthought him and won the game, which is exactly what his DI wanted him to do. But those that don't fail and they're washed out, which is exactly what they want. So help new nurse Karl here with the mental game of weaving through a bureaucracy and getting good ideas implemented.
What's come to my head is, as a leader, you have shifted into a whole different world. You cannot take what worked before and expect it to work now. Leadership is slow, incremental steps towards where you want to go. It is not fast things. You cannot just say, do this, and it works. It is not, that's a dictatorship, and that is not going to work long term with sustainable outcomes if that's your approach. It may give you short term gain. it will not give you long-term outcomes. What we are talking about is creating a process, creating relationships, and creating understanding that will give you long-term success. So if that's not what you're after, then you can get off the call now. Because that's not what you have to build relationships. You have to be curious to understand what the other person is seeing, experiencing, and up against. And if you don't care because you just want to push your thing through, I don't think this is the conversation is the right one for you right now. Because this does take incremental steps. It takes conversation. It takes time. And I am telling you, patience was not my friend for a long time. I had to learn that because I just wanted to do it. It seemed obvious. Let's just make this happen. And I had to learn that. And it's hard, but it is, and it can feel exhausting and, all those things. Yes. And it also will give you what you need, because once you establish relationships with this nurse that you were just mentioning, once you do get in the door and she recognizes that you have value, you have good thoughts, you will be able to get on our calendar again. And if we can maybe think a little bit more about the process instead of the outcome right away. I want to build the process, because that foundation is the same foundation you're going to use next week for another issue. So invest in that.
Okay, so I'm talking later today on what was called the business triangle. Incomes, leadership theory, incomes, results, and now we have the bottom part of the triangle that is yet to be defined. I hear you, what you're saying. I'm still speaking as this nurse. I hear what you're saying, but I've got a binder full of must-dos that people, thanks, Karl. Let's give 1% of the time to the relationship. Are you done yet? Now, what about the binder of imperatives that we've asked you to do? How do I mix what you just said about relationships, building sustainability, when every week I've got to show up with the director of surgery and the CNO saying,
Yeah.
what's what? And if I say, well, I spent a lot of time this week building relationships, they're going to put me right back at bedside, and I'll never lead in this organization.
Well, I think that requires to be aligned with leaders that trust the process. And I think if you have found yourself, and this is shedding, here you go. We're right back to the beginning. If they say, I don't basically respect your process, which is what they're saying, right? You're saying, I need to build relationships before I can ask people to do anything. And they say, no, I don't want you to build relationships. I just want you to do the stuff. My question to you is this the right organization for you?
Wow, that blunt.
Yes. So when I started, this is 25 years ago, I started a total joint program at the big hospital. I said to my boss, who I didn't hardly know, this was a pilot program. Basically, literally had a piece of paper on my desk that said, this is a pilot program, which basically meant if it doesn't work, Shandy, you're out of a job. So it was a lot riding on the success of me developing this program. And I said to her, I didn't know anybody at the hospital. I didn't know any of the surgeons. I didn't know any of the staff. And I looked at my boss and I said, I need two things. I need 2 months before I see any patient. Now, this was a total joint program. This is the whole point, is that I would be seeing the patients preoperatively and managing their care postoperatively. And I said, I need 2 months that I cannot see any patients. And I need a stack of thank you cards. And she looked at me like I had 4 heads. And those were my non-negotiables. I cannot lead a bunch of people who I have no control over. Nobody reports to me. Nobody is in my department. I don't even really have a department. But you're asking me to change the entire culture and develop a team of 12 surgeons and 70 other people. and you want me just to do it, that is fine. I will do it, but I cannot do it if I don't know who they are. That is a non-negotiable. And if she had said, no, I will not do that, my guess is I would have said, well, then I'm sorry, I cannot do this job.
And I think that is a perfect story to conclude with, because that tells our listeners exactly the amount of courage and value base that you need in order to lead well, which is what this podcast is about. So as we wrap it here, Shandy, any closing thoughts? Because this has just been you explaining some marvelous writing. Any closing thoughts for us?
This is hard stuff. It's not, these are moments that you will have to dig deep and really get clear as to who you want to be, what is the value that you have for yourself and that you can give to others. And you also have to find yourself in alignment with other people that want the same thing. And not all organizations are going to be in alignment with what's important to you. That doesn't mean they're a bad organization. It just means it's not in alignment with you. You have to decide what's most important. So I would urge you to just think about that and then make decisions that get you closer to alignment. And that may take a little bit of time. Both Karl and I do our writings. You do weekly writing. I do weekly writings. I would urge you to subscribe to both of those. It will give you courage. It will give you insight. It'll give you things to think about. This is an active process. It is hard. You need support. You need to be able to connect with people. And that is what will allow you to be in the top 10%.
Excellent. And to our listeners, check in the show notes. It'll have subscription information for Weekly Wisdom by Shandy and also for my leadership writings. So encourage you to do that. Just grateful for your joining us again today, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Shandy, thank you so much for being with us.
You're very welcome.